During the pandemic, we've done multiple stories on the state of American meatpacking plants and the intersection of meatpacking with super spreader sites for coronavirus. And ever since these meatpacking plants were forced to stay open, apparently mostly so that we can ship meat to China, and we're going to give you numbers on that, I have been dreading hearing the news that cases are starting to explode in these plants once again. But I just saw some news that actually makes me a lot less worried about finding out about that, because apparently, although the cases will begin to spread again, we won't know about it. So that's reassuring. On June 8th, the health department for Burke County, where the Case Farms facility, this meatpacking plant, is located, they had 136 new COVID cases, a 25% increase in a very limited period of time. Yet neither the company, county officials, nor the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services would confirm whether those cases were connected to Case Farms. So let's be clear. The meatpacking plants are just not going to report that their employees got sick anymore. So hey, problem solved. We don't have to worry about it. I mean, the workers do. They're screwed because apparently these meatpacking plants haven't done much at all to improve worker safety over the past few months. They're still packed in shoulder to shoulder. PPE is still far too rare, but they're just going to stonewall investigations into how many of their employees have gotten sick. So Jason, are you reassured?
Not reassured at all. And I mean, look, the meatpacking industry, has, according to, they've shipped over $1 billion in meat across to China. I mean, it's big business. Some of these companies are historically very American companies, and in their communities employ the majority of the people that work in these communities. They work in those plants. So at the end of the day, what they're worried about is their bottom line, and I think that's what a lot of any company is worried about, is their bottom line, and them not reporting the numbers, but kind of pivoting and saying, we're not going to report the numbers in our facilities, but we'll report the numbers in our community, is just their way of
Yeah.
passing the buck and not being held accountable, which is disgusting. Be open about it. There are some companies that are, but majority of these companies are taking that route, and it's criminal. You're doing, not only are you doing a disservice to your employees, you're kind of killing your employees, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to get to some of those numbers in just a second, but I want to be very clear. Like, sometimes we exaggerate for effect. The idea that they're just stonewalling, this is explicit. The Burke County Health Department, where Case Farms is located, does have data about where people with positive cases work, but they're choosing not to release it. So, like, they could tell us if the cases are at the plant or not. They don't want to. Why? Because it's in the best interest of the people in the area? No, but it's certainly in the
Right.
best interests of Case Farms. So it's a pretty sweet deal that they've got set up there. I wonder if other places would have that same sort of deal. So let's talk about some of the numbers, because we alluded to how bad this has been for the workers. Let's see. As of Thursday, there were nearly 3,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in 28 meat processing plant clusters around the state, the department said, but would not specify further. And maybe they just happen to be in that region. It doesn't have anything to do with the plants. We'll never know, apparently.
Right. Apparently.
Ridiculous. But anyway, as of right now, more than 36,000 meat processing and farm workers have tested positive for COVID-19, and at least 116 have died. Although, again, when these companies are stonewalling you, who really knows? It could be far worse than that. But tens of thousands of employees in one industry have gotten this virus. It's just devastating.
And it's devastating, and the numbers, John, don't lie. The numbers don't lie. When you have these independent people that come in to try to extract the real numbers and get to the bottom of it, that's when you have companies that send out a Rhonda or a Margaret or a Debbie to speak on behalf of the company and not really be transparent. All we want is transparency, and transparency is what we need that to save the lives of these people who are afraid to even speak out. I mean, some of these articles, these people are going on background and being unnamed because they're afraid of the repercussions, naturally, and of course, of them telling the truth about these working conditions. And as I said earlier, in a lot of these towns, this is the bread and butter of those towns for the community. So they have no choice but to return to these working conditions. And beyond, there needs to be an FBI investigation, I think.
Yeah.
It needs to go beyond just FDA and these small. I mean, the FDA is not a small entity by no means, but beyond these small independent investigator outlets and investigation outlets to get to the bottom of this. This needs to be on a higher level of sleuthing by the government, because if 36,000 people in this industry have tested positive, and that's just what's been reported by these people, and we don't know the real numbers. Imagine how many more are actually there, and in the long run, months or maybe a year from now, how many people are going to be positive or even dead?
Yeah.
Packing chicken fingers, you know?
Well, so essential, obviously. Again, everyone, check out Beyond and Impossible Meat. Very good. Had a burger recently. It wasn't meat. Still very tasty. And I want to tie this back to two other stories that we covered recently. One, just so that I don't forget, I saw someone in the chat mention the new pig H1N1. Yeah, we have a video up about that on the channel from just the past couple of days. But also, we were talking maybe about 2 months ago, and we were talking about the meatpacking plants, about how they'd had all these massive spreads of infection. The workers were talking about how the fact that they're shoulder to shoulder, there's no way that you can avoid contact with other people. And then stories came out in some of these states that if you had the opportunity to go back to work when, for instance, plants are reopened, and you decide not to because you're scared of getting coronavirus, you will be ineligible for unemployment at that point. So you either potentially lose everything and are penniless, or you're forced to go back to work at a place that is not going to prioritize your safety. And we talked about that, and I guess to some extent it predicted at that point. It was fairly clear, and now we're seeing that. And what they have done is, federally, the Republicans are saying we're going to protect companies from lawsuits over people that get infected while at work. And now they've got this cushy situation set up with the boards of health where they don't have to report if the infections are happening. So they're not actually prioritizing stopping infections. They're just prioritizing their public image and making sure that it doesn't look as bad as it clearly is. But when you listen to the workers, you get the true story. So that is what's going on. We don't know exactly how it's going to go, but considering the pattern so far in terms of cases and deaths, we have a pretty good idea.
And John, with that said, the workers have no reason to lie. Really, they don't, because livelihoods are at stake. People want to be able to provide for their families. They want to get a check every other Friday or Thursday of the month. They want to make sure that their livelihood isn't upended because COVID-19 has put millions of people on unemployment, has put millions of people in situations that they never would have imagined in this day and age of our economy. So I don't think these people are lying, but it goes back to no one cares about the people. No one cares. You're just a number. You are replaceable. You are dispensable. You are not a human being. You're just a line item on a sheet that if they could would erase you, because what does that do? It puts more coins, more dollars back into their bottom line.
Yeah.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.